Hello everyone, welcome to day 3 of Strategic Business Leader technical session. um, Today will be the last day of the technical session, and as I told you before, tomorrow and day after I will be taking you through two um, past papers explaining how the whole examination marking and how the answering structure, everything happens, right? And if you see on today's handouts, I have the technical slides. Then I also have uploaded the revision notes. Now this is something that you can use after today's session, and it has summary notes on all the topics that I've been discussing. It's quite concise, so you can use it even for the exam. Then I also have 3 questions which I will be discussing in today's session. All right, moving on. So let's start with professionalism, ethical codes, and the public interest. Quite an important area for a case study examination. Like I mentioned yesterday, corporate governance, stakeholder, ethics, leadership. These are some of the key areas as it exists at the high level of the organization, and which has a greater impact on the organization and management, etc. Right. So what is the difference between a profession versus professionalism? So a profession is body of theory and skills and adherence to common code of values and conduct, also acceptance of a duty to society as a whole. So when you say body of theory and skills, it's about technical skills. Accounting profession, so then you will have all the technical skills related to how to do accounting, how to report, and then so on. And this theory and skills you acquire by training and education, and maintained by continuing professional development. Even after you getting qualified, you must continuously be engaged in acquiring the updated or continuously developing knowledge. And adherence to common code of values and conduct, which is established by the administering body. So, and also ethical standards applicable to all members. So for example, ACCA. So when you become a member, ACCA will tell you this is how you must conduct your affairs. The best practices, and you need to be within that scope without going out of those boundaries, especially the ethical boundaries and technical know-how, and also acceptance of a duty to society as a whole. So professions can be trusted to act in the public interest, and members are granted a qualification and use of a title. So once you complete the required examinations and relevant expertise or experience needed, then you are given membership, and then you are expected to provide your services to the public within the scope that is being provided. And professionalism, on the other hand, is being a real professional, seen to be acting professionally or literally having professionalism. So you are an accountant, now you have a responsibility to do good to society, in the sense to the company you work, anyone coming for professional advice. So you must act like a professional. A state of mind, while the profession provides the rules that members of that profession must follow. Also an obligation on members to comply with relevant laws and regulation and avoid any action that may bring discredit to the profession. So for example, when ACCA as a body lays down certain criteria for the members to act, you should not act beyond that limits. So the scope is defined, so we must be within. Also complying with the ethical standards laid down by the professional body. Right, the public interest. Now this is important. So the public interest can be defined as that which supports the good of society as a whole, as opposed to what serves the interest of individual members of society or specific sectional interest groups. Right, so this is about serving the society as a whole. Right, and the distinguishing mark of a profession is the acceptance of a responsibility to the public. So like I said, someone comes for advice on, let's say, accounting or double entry. You must ensure that you give them sufficient advice, and that they understand what you say. And if you are if you are not in a position to support them, maybe you get one of your friends again who's well qualified to do that. So it's a responsibility that we must fulfill. Accountants and the public interest. So accountants do not generally act against the public interest, or at least in theory, right? The ethical code applicable to most accountants confirms that such actions is not normally appropriate. So we must always act, right, in the best interest of the public interest. Corporate codes of ethics. Corporate ethics relates to the application of ethical values to business behavior. So ethics is about moral rights, right? So in your business dealings, you must always be ethical, right? There is no way that you can be unethical at any time. Key areas included in a code of corporate ethics: purpose and value of business, customer relations, shareholders, employees, suppliers, and society. Basically, with all your stakeholders, you must be ethical at all times. Benefits and drawbacks of having a corporate code of ethics: provides a framework for conflict resolution. So code of ethics is laid down, and then it's easy for anyone to access whenever there's a conflict, and then you go by the rules. Also provides guidelines for similar ethical disputes and methods of resolution. So ethics can be subjective at times. So when you have laid it down via the code of codes, then it's easy for you to eliminate disputes. Also provides boundaries across which it is ethically incorrect to pass. Again, people would understand their limits. Drawbacks: it's only a code, may not fit for the precise ethical issue. Like I said, it's highly subjective, and sometimes people get into arguments. Okay, this is ethical, that is not, right? And then can be interpreted in different ways, which may appear ethically incorrect to two different people. Also, may be no clear or effective punishment for breaching the code. So it's difficult, as it's about moral rights, right? So yeah, before moving on, I would like to throw a question to you on ethics. Let's say your boss tells you some important material have come to the port or the harbor, and he hands over a document to you to go and clear the goods and bring it back to office. So now you have this piece of document, and you go to the particular office in the port or the harbor, and the officer there, when you met him, you spoke to him. Okay, this is the original documents. I'm here to clear my goods. And then you realize that he expects something. All the documents are in place. You have made the payments, and legally everything is in place. But then the officer at the port is expecting something extra to deliver the goods or to release it. What do you do in this instance? Do you give in to his request, or do you say, no, this is unethical and I can't do it, and do you go back to your office? What do you do? How will you tackle such a situation? So I have some answers. Some say it's unethical, so refuse it. And some say it can be interpreted as bribe, so not in the public interest. But can you go back without the goods? Let's say it's an important part for a machinery. And then without this part, the machinery cannot operate. Yeah, I have a reasonably good answer. If it is a common practice in the country, it can be considered as the cost of doing business. So we are getting away, I mean, around a common practice. So in most countries, or it is there. It's unethical, but it is there. So what? How do we get around? Now you see the dilemma as to how to tackle such a situation. So how do you think large corporations are handling this? And large companies, they are, they have their own PR departments, which would always, say that they abide by all ethical guidelines, etc. So how do you get around? Yeah, so one way to answer this is, if it is a common practice, like someone has already mentioned here, it can be considered as cost of doing business. But large organizations, what they do is they appoint an agent in between. So the agent would clear it for them, and the company would record it as a professional fee or clearance charges or whatever. Because, okay, it still does not solve the real problem. I hope you understand, right? So that's what I said. These are high level things. But still, you do something to stay away, because you cannot directly get involved in unethical business practices for anything at any cost. Professional codes of ethics basically integrity, meaning members should be straightforward and honest in all professional business relationship, maintaining honesty. Objectivity, should not allow bias or conflict of interest in business judgments. And then professional competence. So if you get a job as an accountant, you must know accounting, what accounting is and how to do accounting. And then confidentiality, protect companies, data and information at all times. And also professional behavior, right? Members must comply with relevant laws and prevent actions discrediting the profession. So like I said, once you become an ACCA member, ACCA will lay down certain laws and regulations by which you must comply with. Not only that, even a country's law you must comply with, company's law, etc. Conflict of interest, this we already looked at yesterday, the threats. And apart from that, the ethical threats and safeguards. An ethical threat is a situation where a person or corporation is tempted not to follow their code of ethics. Something similar to what I just mentioned, about the harbor example. And an ethical safeguard provides guidance or a course of action which attempts to remove the ethical threat. So you have a problem, then safeguard is how do we solve the issue. Corruption and bribery. Corruption is bribery and any other behavior in relation to persons entrusted with responsibilities in the public or private sector which violates their duties and is aimed at obtaining undue advantages of any kind for themselves or for the others. Right, so let's make it simple. So bribery including excessive hospitality, facilitation payments, buying votes, illicit payments to political parties, misappropriation of public funds. So all these should be avoided because these are not sustainable business practices and it will upset the whole system. Why is corruption wrong? It's a misuse of power and position and has a disproportionate impact on the poor and disadvantaged. So this is where the problem is. Disproportionate impact. I mean, people will not be treated equally. Therefore, it's unfair. Also, it undermines the integrity of all involved and damages the fabric of organizations to which they belong. So if anyone gets into it, then integrity, trustworthiness will be lost. So business argument, legal risk. Most forms of corruption illegal. And it will put you in trouble. Reputational risk. So once you are known to, if someone gets into corruption and bribery and if the news breaks out, then it's a massive impact on the reputation. And people will not want to do business with the organization. Also financial cost. Pressure to repeat offend because once it is done, the other party will continuously want it done. Also blackmail if you don't do it. Impact on staff, the loyalty will be lost and recruitment and retention of quality personnel will become difficult. Also impact on development, undermines the world's social, economic and environmental development. So people will try to take shortcuts at all times. And we know that shortcuts are not sustainable and it will not provide stability. Right, so ethical decision making, Tucker's 5-question model. This is an important model that you can use whenever there is a question on ethics. So there is a issue and from an ethical angle, you identify whether to go ahead or not. Then you use this 5-question model. Is it profitable? Meaning your action, does it give a fair ROI to the business? Is it legal within the boundaries of your profession, of the country's law, etc.? Is it fair by both parties? Is it the right thing to do? And also, is it sustainable or environmentally sound? So if an answer to any of these questions is no, then it's better for you to stay away. Right? It is not profitable, but then all others are okay. Meaning it's not good for the company. All others are okay, but it's not legal. Then definitely you should not do it. So something like that. So an action related to ethical stance should be a yes in all 5. Yes should for all 5 of these questions. Right, organizing for success. Basically, organizational structures. We have entrepreneurial structure. That is basically a one-man show. Normally, small organizations will have this kind of structure, entrepreneurial. Structure is built around the owner or the manager. Functional. Groups together employees that undertake similar tasks. Sometimes we call it chimneys, right? Where you put employees who have similar technical know-how and they do similar tasks. For example, production department or production function. Everyone in that department or function do production. Marketing department. Everyone in that department do marketing. Sales department. Everyone in that department do sales. So that's why you call it a functional department, or we call it chimneys. And then divisional splits organization into several divisions, either product based or geographical based. So for instance, Unilever can look at their individual companies or subsidiaries in different countries as divisions. Division in country X, division in country Y, or within a country you can have based on your geographical separations, different divisions. So each division will have its own finance, marketing, HR departments, something like that. And of course, a matrix is a combination of functional and divisional structure. So mostly suitable for project-based organizations. So from entrepreneurial to matrix, the movement happens from small to large organizations. Which form of structure is the most suitable? How would you answer that? Which form of structure is the most suitable one? Right, so there's a question on the previous slide, that is, how can I determine that a decision is sustainable and environmentally sound? So that is something like let's say you're using a material in your production which is not environmentally sound, then you must avoid it. Yes, so what form of structure will depend on the organization, sometimes the legal barriers and your requirement, the number of employees. So there is no universally workable or successful structure. It depends on the requirements and few factors. Right, now Mintzberg has also mentioned an organization structure which has 6 areas. Now if you look at the strategic apex, that is the strategic level. Normally we show a structure using a triangle, right? So in that, the top part is strategic apex, which is a strategic layer where the board of directors and CEO, chairman belong to. Then we have the middle line, which is tactical layer, right, where the functional heads are. And then we have the operating core, that is the operational level employees. So apart from these 3, Mintzberg also says you need to have support staff. That is your HR department, your administration department, maintenance, people who will help you to function. And apart from that, you have the techno structure, that is the processes and systems that are in place for you to function, right? Or we can call it the technical structure. And all this is based on your beliefs and values, which is your ideology, which will set the tone for the whole organization. So this is another way of looking at an organization's structure, or you can use this to design your organizational structure. Business process. Right. Business processes are activities that transforms raw material into finished good. And how many activities in a business will depend on the type of business. A chocolate manufacturer will have X number of activities, but an insurance company, depending on the type of products they offer, they will have a number of activities. A hospital, depending on what kind of services they provide, surgeries or whatnot, they will have a number of activities, right? And see, strategic business processes such as new product design or high sensitivity customer care provide unique and durable business advantages to organizations. Looking at the business in terms of activities and processes opens up scope for challenging the ways in which things are done and coming up with improvements or sometimes more radical changes. Right now, if you look at companies these days, pretty much all in an industry are providing a similar product or service. Take for example, mobile industry in your country. Company A, company B, company C, all are providing you airtime. That's the business they are in. So when they give you a SIM, what they give you is airtime. So whether and competition is no, these industries are mostly oligopolies, few players, and whether you buy a SIM from A, B, or C doesn't matter because prices are pretty much same. So what is this factor that would make you to go to a particular provider? What do you think? Which factor would you decide? Based on which factor would you buy? Yeah, so one says better customer service. Yes, correct. Now, most of these companies who are providing a similar product use customer service as their differentiating element. So when you call them for some inquiry or a support, they should be there to support you whenever you need and in the language that you understand, and your problem should be solved, right? So customer service is used as a key factor to differentiate, right? If you take fast food outlets, pretty much they are providing the same product, a burger or whatnot, but how they deliver, the atmosphere, the ambience, right? Those are elements that they use to differentiate. So that is where these business processes become very important, where you decide what kind of activities to do, right? For example, now you see traditionally pizza was delivered using motorbikes, motorbike riders. Now they are exploring to deliver pizza using drones. Remote control, helicopters, drones. So now look at the change, the jump in business process. Traditionally, so you have to employ a person, give him a bike, the motorbike, then the cost associated with the motorbike, salary to the employee, the safety issues. You need to deliver pizza within a particular time period, and then costs attached to that. But you use bring in technology, right? And then you bring in a drone and you automate the process from production to delivery, right? And it just happens. All you do is maintain the equipment, the drones, and then it just goes and delivers and comes back. No traffic, nothing, no salary, nothing, etc. But okay, it has its own challenges, right? But what I'm trying to tell you is, within certain scopes, certain segments, you can modify the way you deliver the product, and that gives the company massive savings in costs, plus helps them to increase revenue because the customer experience increases, customer satisfaction increases, and then so on. So this is where business processes become very important, or adjusting them, removing unnecessary activities, and then coming up with newer ways of delivering service. Right, so Harman's process strategy matrix, this is a good way of looking at how to go about with regards to your processes. If a particular process is low in complexity and low in importance also for the organization, I mean, it's not that difficult and it's not important also, then you put minimum effort. Don't waste much of your time. If the activity is complex and the importance is less, then you outsource. Can you give me an example of an activity that you would outsource in the organization? All right, most of you have said accounting function. So if you are an audit, if you are an audit company carrying out audit services, something like KPMG, will you outsource your accounting function? So if you are an audit firm, will you outsource the accounting function? If you are a company that is not into audit services, then you can, yes, outsource your accounting function. So if you are an audit firm, what do you think? Audit firm will have its own accounting department as well. Audit firm's core business is not accounting. Audit firm's core business is auditing. Mostly not. If the company's accounting function per se can be separately identified and no bearing, then all right. But most of the time, accounting function, okay, technically, complexity is high, and therefore it is outsourced. That is why you see nowadays, thanks to technology, and accounting function is being outsourced to foreign companies, etc. Right? Because okay, that accounting, not finance. that is bookkeeping, etc. Right? Because some companies look at it as time wasting activity, but that is why the demands and are placed more on finance as opposed to accounting. Anything that has high complexity and high strategic importance, you must constantly improve. Things like production, customer service, product improvements, features. Right? You can't deliver, ABC and then stop at it, because your competition will also catch up. So you must constantly look at ways of improving, because it's strategically important for the business. Plus, complexity is also high. And anything that's less complex but it is important for the business, then you automate. That you bring in machineries and technology to reduce the headache, because it's not that complex. So you can use Harman's process strategy matrix to decide the way forward with regards to your processes. So according to Harman, BPR should be focused on those activities which are of high strategic importance, also likely to be complex and dynamic, as these are normally the processes that provide competitive advantage and overall company success. Now, what is BPR? Business process redesign. Right? It takes a clean sheet approach and typically has 5 stages. So BPR is sometimes it's called known as business process re-engineering. Right? It's fundamental rethinking and radical redesign of business processes. So how you deliver, you fundamentally change. So that there is a massive jump. For example, previously you took 5 steps to deliver a product, and now you take only 1 step or 2 steps to deliver a product. So the change is massive. But customer satisfaction should be your key aim. You should never compromise on customer satisfaction. So this change should bring you saving in time, cost, and also improve quality and keep the customer happy. So those 4 factors should be looked at with any process change initiative. So you create a project plan, analyze the existing processes, problems, and design solutions for these problems, meaning eliminate them, and develop resources to provide these solutions and implement and test the new process. So it's generic guidelines as to how to carry out process change. So typical process problems, activities are unnecessary. Example, credit checks on cash sales. It does not make sense, right? Activities are in the wrong order. And then activities are in the wrong swim lane, right? Swim lanes are paths when it comes to production. So sometimes by eliminating an activity, you can eliminate an entire swim lane and thereby reducing swim lanes to minimum amounts. Activities are missing. Activities take too long. Sometimes you do a lot of reconciliations which are not needed. If you do things right the first time, there's no need for reconciliation, because reconciliation also takes time and money and etc. So in any process that does not add value, you have to identify and then take it out of the system. So solutions: remove unnecessary activities, remove swim lanes, combining activities. 2 activities can be combined together, combining job roles, automation, outsourcing, give the headache to someone else, and then also changing the order of activities, and then reducing handovers. Right, electronic business. In simple terms, this would mean carrying out business activities via electronic modes. So we would use IT when it comes to e-business. So IT can form an important part in the entire strategic planning process. So it can help provide new technological developments which open up growth opportunities. It can help a business cope with its competitive environment and market position. Strategic choice can be made easier through the use of IT. And also, IT can help in implementation plus review performance. Now, according to Michael Porter, IT will help a business in two ways. One, it will help you to introduce new products and services. Two, it will help you to innovate on your existing products and services. So you've been delivering pizza and now you're using drones. So innovation, thanks to technology. So that is IT helping you to innovate in your business processes. So e-business companies normally take a staged approach. Unless of course you are an IT company, normally first thing that you will do is you will have a web presence, meaning you've been doing business but you do not have a website. So now you have a website with your company details, the service or the product and the service offerings, your location, etc. Details about your operations, etc. on the website. Then you think, why don't I use this website to accept payments from the customers? So then you must have something called as a payment gateway in your website. So then how do you get a payment gateway? You have to talk to a bank, then integrate bank's page with your web page. So when the customers come into your page, they can see, okay, there is an area to register and then make payment. So now what's happening is your website is used to bring in revenue. So that's the electronic commerce stage. Integrated commerce is about where you connect your suppliers as well to your website. So now your suppliers know what's happening within your organization based on the limits that you have allowed. For example, you will allow him to know what is going on in your production and warehouse. So he will know when to deliver what quantities, etc., based on your requirements. And on the other side, now the customer is buying via your website. So now there is connection between both parties. So that's what integrated e-commerce is. And finally, e-business. Now your entire business is based on technology. So a lot of automation, a lot of online activities happens. So unless you are an IT company, you will take a staged approach. If you are an IT company, you will directly jump to e-business. If not, it'll be normally it'll be a staged approach. And there is a risk in IT as well. Deliberate contamination of data, hacking, viruses, accidental entries or errors, inadequate securities, hardware failure, etc. These are common things, and you must have a solution to these risks. That's what will be checked or examined. So IT controls, we have general controls, application controls, software controls, and then network. For example, general controls, companies, when you start working, they will ask you for, they will require you to put a password, right? Also, hardwares will be protected in certain ways. Sometimes, the computer can be fixed to a table so that, no one can take it away to also avoid theft, etc. Applications, special passwords, etc. And software you buy from reputed vendors who can give you 24/7 support. You always use original licenses. And also network, you again get it done through reputed companies. and using IT successfully. At supply chain management, disruptive technology, interesting topic, big data, and cloud technology. Right, so supply chain management is about managing your supply chain. That is, you have the supplier, you have the manufacturer, distributor, and then the customer. So it's about managing this entire network, which is known as supply chain management. Right, so transformation of product from node to node includes activities such as production planning, purchasing, materials management, distribution, customer service, and forecasting. So you forecast and then you work backwards. So managing this entire chain is not easy. So that is why technology is being brought into companies, because technology or IT makes your life easy. So for example, you can connect the supplier and the manufacturer through EDI, electronic data interchange. So supplier would know when to deliver what. So manual requests are reduced. So when the materials reduce in your warehouse, supplier will be notified. So now he knows, okay, when to come and replenish stocks. So using technology, you smooth your business or operational activities. And then once the production occurs, customer will be made aware. Okay, product is ready. Either you come and pick it up, or we will deliver, or whatever the business model you have in place. Push versus pull system. Push is basically supply led. That is, you buy raw materials, you manufacture the product, and then you keep it in your showroom and advertise and try to sell. That is push model. But the new trend is that pull model, or we call it market led or customer led. Right, where consumers or customers will come and give you the order, and that's the trigger point for production. That's when you start production. You will not produce up until customer comes and orders. So this is what e-commerce facilitates. And this was very rare prior to the development of e-commerce. So e-procurement is often seen as a vital element of a pull system, electronic procurement. So like I said, EDI between manufacturer and the supplier. So customer comes to your website, makes an order, and now that's the trigger point. So now you know, according to this order, what kind of materials you need to buy. So if your system is connected to the supplier system, then supplier will automatically get to know, and then he would deliver what needs, then your needs, and then you manufacture and then give it back to the customer. So that's the pull system. We also use two more terms: upstream supply chain management and downstream supply chain management. I hope you would note it down: upstream supply chain management and downstream supply chain management. Upstream supply chain management is between the supplier and the manufacturer. Downstream supply chain management is between the manufacturer and the customer. Upstream, between the manufacturer, and between supplier and the manufacturer. Downstream is between the manufacturer and the customer. So electronic or e-procurement, the benefits: labor cost saving, better inventory control, provided you have updated the right inventory requirements, more influence over suppliers, a pull system, and also reduction in errors. Problems: over reliance on technology. So if there is technological error, then the whole process or activities will come to a halt. Staff resistance, people losing jobs, etc. They will not like it. Cost savings may fail to materialize. Weak empirical evidence of success. Why do you think this happens? E-procurement cost savings may fail to materialize. In real life, there is an issue. It doesn't happen as we, learn. Why do you think that happens? Because we go to adjust the system, then maintenance increases, also expenses in the system, cost of system, or people not knowing how to operate, so cost on training. So due to those reasons, cost savings sometimes don't materialize. And then prices and product range may become out of date. Sometimes changes happen quite frequently in the market. So if your system is not updated, then there will be issues. Impact of successful downstream supply chain management. Like I said before, between the manufacturer and the customer, customers become more reluctant to switch because now you're connected to him electronically. And then he's used to you, your username, password. He knows your site in and out, how to buy, what to buy, where to click. So dependency is high. Also, disintermediation. What is disintermediation? Technology has done this on a large scale. Disintermediation. Yes, disintermediation is removing your intermediary or the agent between the seller and the buyer. Something like airline ticket agents. So if you want an airline ticket, you go to the agent and then you buy. So now what happens is airline has its own website. So now you go to the website and buy. You don't go through the agent. So there is massive cost saving because otherwise airline has to pay commission to the agents. So that's basically what disintermediation is all about. Then you have continual updates from customers as to what they want, etc. And then cheaper communication between customer and the company. Also, consumer user groups are created. So now you have segments to cater to. And better information on customers. You get first-hand information because the feedback directly comes to you. And also, customers can start to customize products. In certain countries, for example, Pizza Hut would allow you to, decide what goes into the product in terms of, ingredients, etc., and the flavors you need. So thanks to technology or website, you customers can do that, and they will love it because they get a personalized product. All right, so disintermediation is removing the agent. What is countermediation? What is countermediation? Countermediation. And then there is also reintermediation. So we have disintermediation, countermediation, and reintermediation. So what is countermediation? So countermediation is where, especially large organizations create their own new intermediaries. And these intermediaries will start competing with the established intermediaries. So that is known as countermediation. What is reintermediation? Reintermediation. So reintermediation is where, companies introduce new intermediaries to their value chain, or at least, some aspects of it. So it's their own, intermediaries. So that's reintermediation. Right, then we move on to big data. Big data means large volumes of data, lots of data. If you are to think of how many images are there in Facebook, it would be very difficult to put a number, but then we know a lot. Similarly, how many emails are sent and received on Gmail for a day? Massive. Similarly, a supermarket, for a day, how many transactions they record using their TPS, transaction processing system. Right? It's massive. So now companies have come to realize that these large or a lot of data is useful. We can extract meaningful information, can identify trends, and thereby use this to make better or informed future decisions. So it has actually 4 characteristics. One would be volume, right? There's lots of it. And then velocity, that is the speed at which it is generated. That is velocity. And also variety. It can take many varied forms like images, text, sound, video. That's variety. And also the 4th one is known as veracity. That is how truthful this data is. How truthful the data is. Because if the data is not truthful, the decision you make based on that data will be an issue for you. Right? For example, when a company advertises on Facebook, and we know that we can go and like that image or the ad. So if there are lots of likes, does it mean that everyone will buy that product, or at least they'll make a purchase in future? Sometimes you will like an image or something because your friend has liked it. There is a influential element there. So, but that's not the truth, right? So sometimes these data can mislead. So veracity is also a key characteristic of big data. there is a YouTube video that talks about the benefits of big data in different industries. For example, big data is used in Formula One races to track every movement of cars, and while the driver is driving, the team can monitor, his performance and then give real-time advice as to where to turn, at what speed to, drive, etc. Similarly, in production, uh, manufacturing organizations, right? At what rate to produce, uh, the lead times, etc. So it is, big data is not only used in companies, it is used in many different areas. Also in sports, something like soccer, right? So there is a nice video on YouTube. I hope you can check it. Right, disruptive technology. Anyone want to tell me what this is? Disruption. And what is this disruptive technology is? So disruptive technology, some of you have answered it correctly. Someone said new technology adopted by the company, and then it upsets the industry. And innovation in technologies which bring in big changes in the way things operate. Now let's say you had a taxi company. You bought 100 cars on lease or some way, and then you recruited 100 drivers. You have another department to take the calls, and it is a taxi business. So customers can call your particular call center, book a taxi, and go wherever they want from point A to point B. So that was the traditional business. That's how taxi companies operated. Now, someone somewhere developed an app, exactly, called Uber. And then he says, if you have a car, you can just register, and someone from the other side can, take a ride on your car by logging into this particular app. So now what will happen to these taxi companies? They have invested a lot of money in these cars, and they are earning a taxi fare, where Uber is also giving the same facility to someone who is not part of this taxi company. Right? So this creates a massive impact on the industry. So Uber can be said as the largest taxi, service provider in the world who does not own a single car. Now, how is that? And then you have Airbnb, rooms and hotels, etc. So you have a house, you're using only 2 rooms, 1 room is vacant. You put it on Airbnb and anyone can, book it within your, specs. And then you earn a revenue and you pay a commission to Airbnb for giving you that solution or the app. So this is what disruption is. So what happens is industry structure will change due to technology. The way you operate changes, right? So the value chain will have new elements coming in, right? So potential benefits: better use of data, frictionless customer experience, direct, more personalization of products and services, and the lack of a physical presence. I mean, you don't need an office. All you need is a presence online and access to cheap capital to fund growth. Yeah, there is a question: is big data also linked to disruptive technology? Example, big data passing real-time information to driver. Yes. Imagine the amount of data that these companies would collect, and then they could use it to better manage their future activities and plan activities. Cloud technology, that is basically being online and providing online servers. So sharing of data becomes easy. On-demand self-service and flexibility, collaboration, more competitive, easier scaling depending on your organizational requirements. You can decide how much of space you buy. Reduce maintenance and backups and disaster recovery and better security. Right, there is a question on intermediaries. You want me to give you an example right now? Disintermediation. Now, in this process, intermediate organizations, that is the middleman, is taken out of the supply chain. So, for example, in the travel industry, the travel agents have been cut out of many transactions now because the public can book directly with airlines and hotels and rail companies. That is disintermediation. You have the company, you have the customer, and there was an agent in between. You put up a website and tell the customer to buy from you directly, and now you don't need the agent, and that's disintermediation. Then you have re-intermediation. That is, new intermediaries are introduced to the value chain, or at least some part of it, some aspects of it. Like if you have known lastminute.com, now they act like intermediaries, and they provide you a wide choice of products and services. Not only airline tickets or whatever, the hotels and travel arrangements. So that is re-intermediation. And then countermediation. That is, established firms create their own new intermediaries, and then they compete with existing established intermediaries. That is counter mediation. So counter mediation is something like you are setting up a branch to compete with an existing player. So I hope that clears your doubts. All right, now I would like to take you through the question that is e-business. So that is Good Sports Limited. I'll give you 3 minutes to quickly have a read on. Alright, the first requirement is provide the partners with a short report. So I hope you would remember the format of the report. So your answer should follow the report format. On the advantages and disadvantages to good sports of developing an e-business strategy and the processes most likely to be affected by such a strategy. So if you can quickly tell me what the advantages and disadvantages are. So the generic advantages would apply. So things like it will help you to integrate and accelerate business processes, like I discussed already. With the suppliers, and also new business opportunities. For example, you will get direct customer feedback, and then you can identify niche markets for you to supply within your scope. Also, the website can be linked to your customer databases, so their buying behavior and needs can be tracked. New products can be introduced, and you can constantly interact with the customer. Now, in a traditional model, that is what's lacking. Interaction, constant interaction, and this would also enable you to customize, and you can develop dialogues. And you would also see customers themselves forming communities. Now, for certain brands, there are fan clubs, and they will not allow any product adjustments in certain countries. And that's good in a way for the company, so because these fan clubs would carry the brand. Of course, there are limitations, but the advantages are more. The disadvantage would be that yes, so remove intermediaries, and then a key problem is that face-to-face contact will be lost, which is more crucial for business relationship. It's nothing like you talking to your customer face-to-face, right? Of course, technology helps you to connect with people who are far away, but still, business managers, CEOs, take the time to travel and meet the other party, because the face-to-face has an impact, has a massive impact on your negotiations and deals, etc. So that is a big disadvantage when it comes to e-business, where the human touch is missing. Also, yes, the cost infrastructure, training required, right? This particular scenario itself talks about few issues for the company, right? Security risk, yes, correct. And maintenance, constant upgrade needed. So all that is money. And also you bring in e-business, sometimes you'll have to make some employees redundant, and there can be employee resistance. Also, that can bring in a negative name to the company. Of course, there is redundancy cost as well, that will add up to your investment. And when you are a small player, it is difficult to manage because your scope is limited. So a business strategy has to be planned out as to how you should go about. Right, the B section B, Good Sports Limited has successfully followed a niche strategy to date, meaning a smaller segment of the market, an identifiable segment. Assess the extent to which an appropriate e-business strategy could help support such a niche strategy. Assess the extent to what extent e-business strategy could help support a niche strategy. What do you think? Right now, with an e-business strategy, to what extent can you enhance your niche strategy? So niche meaning you're on a focused differentiation strategy. You are catering to a special segment of the market. So the moment you go online, selling your products, now the customers have access to your prices. So what they will do now is immediately get online and check with others. I mean, similar products. How are their prices compared to these particular companies? So there it poses a big challenge for this particular company to position and then sell their products. So which is actually which will actually make it difficult for them. Right, and also choosing which customers you want to serve and how do you want to serve. Now also even more critical decisions. Now see, when it comes to a niche market, now according to Porter, that niche should be sizable enough for you to make profits. So for example, if it's a focused differentiation strategy, now you're going to charge premium pricing. So how about customer company relationship? Will they be happy that you talk to them via online modes? How about a personalized service? So those aspects should also be considered. But the advantage is that you can communicate to them individually via email and whatnot, right? So you can promote the line of products that they like, or basically on a customized way rather than providing a generic product to everyone. because now you have direct access to them. And then we will learn in a little while the advantages of internet marketing, right? So you can collect a lot of individual customer data and then cater to individual requirements, and that means that you have considerable scope for innovation, which will enhance the service offered to your customers. But then in this case you must make sure that you balance the cost and the benefits, right? So cost of serving the customer and what he gives back in return. So the cost should never be more. Of course it can be for branding purposes initially or to attract the customer, but not subsequently. And as you know, internet is relatively cost effective, so that advantage is also there. And when it comes to this company, um, we don't have much indication to say that they have reached the maturity or saturation point. So that means there is scope for growth. So any investment that is made now uh, will reap benefits over a long period of time. So meaning cost of service provision will be lower than the returns. Also, you would see that the partners say that they want to avoid head-on competition. So then e-business would help them to avoid it and identify segments that they can cater to, which again is a niche market. Like there is a question, although what a niche market is, but I don't really understand how e-business could support niche. Can you please explain? Yes, now you have your niche, and then via your e-business, you cater only to them. So you connect to them, you deliver your products online in terms of pictures and whatnot. So it's about being in constant touch with your niche. If not, if you put a, for example, let's say an advertisement on the newspaper, everyone will read it. So with an electronic mode, you choose, you can choose to whom you talk to. All right, so let's take a break and then come back. So I will see you exactly in 15 minutes time. All right, welcome back. So moving on to e-marketing, that is electronic marketing. We need to look at 7 P's, 6 I's of internet marketing, e-branding and customer relationship management. Right, traditionally the marketing mix are the 4 P's, that is product, price, promotion and place, meaning to your identified segment, manufacture a product that is suitable. So the brand name matters, packaging, features, the options that your product provides, quality, warranty, service and style or appeal, how attractive the product is. So all those elements are covered under the product. Also price, which is very important. If you get pricing wrong, it can ruin everything, because price has an price can communicate to customer. You go out to buy garments and then you buy a t-shirt or whatever, you look at the label, price tag. When you see the price, you immediately understand the quality or at which level it is pitched. So price has an effect of communicating to the customer. So therefore you need to be very careful in deciding the price for a product. Company should not lose because the price has to be more than the cost. To the customer it should not be excessive, only then he will buy the product. So it has to be win-win. So the level, the discount you offer, allowances, payment terms, delivery options, all that will be covered under the price. Promotion as to how you sell the product. The advertising part. So sales promotion, personal selling, also publicity, and then advertising. Place where you distribute or deliver, or your showrooms, distribution channels, coverage, location outlets, territories, inventory levels, inventory location. So all that will be covered under place. So this is the traditional 4 P's of marketing mix. So apart from this, e-marketing or even service industries involves another 3 more, which is people, process and physical evidence. In service industries, especially the people who provide the service matter a lot. Depending on the way they deliver the product, you can have a big impact on the customer's satisfaction. If the service provider is a pleasant person, providing what the customer wants, there's always a chance that the customer will stick to the company, and there'll be repeated business, right? So you can provide a good product, but the person who serves is not up to the mark, then it's a problem, right? Because for customer it's an experience, so that experience has to be good. And also processes, the way you deliver it, right? The number of activities you take to deliver a product. I mean, certain restaurants, you walk in and immediately a waiter would come and introduce themselves by their name, and they'll tell you throughout, I will be the one who will be serving you, and it's a personalized service to an extent. So that is also part of the process, the welcome, right? How they take you in, the way they deliver the product, how they take the order. So it's an experience given via the process. And also physical evidence, or it can be also looked at as the moment of truth, right? So what they deliver. So all these matters. And when it comes to e-marketing, these are the 7 P's, the traditional 4 P's plus people, process and the physical evidence. So e-marketing, electronic marketing, you can use the website for your information and transactions, links to, and from other websites. For example, certain news websites would allow you to have a small advertisement of your website, and then when you click on that advertisement, it will direct the customer to your website. And then email to carefully selected customers, meaning a focus group or a niche that you can target. Also, CRM, customer relationship management systems, and then loyalty cards and high profile for search engines. Right, so 6 I's of e-marketing. That is, now traditionally we have 7 P's without electronic modes, but then with electronic marketing we have the 6 I's, which are interactivity, intelligence, individualization, independence of location, industry structure, and integration. Right, now 6 I's of internet marketing. What is interactivity? What do you think interactivity is? Yeah, most of you get it right. Interactivity means the interaction between the company and the customer. And thanks to internet, um, that is a possibility now. So using internet, you can, using chat boxes, you can communicate with your customers real time. So that's a major advantage of, internet marketing. Right, moving on to intelligence. What do you think that is? What is intelligence in internet marketing? Yes, so intelligence is all about gathering information. So using internet, you can gather vast amount of data and information about your target segments. Every like, every activity you do on internet is captured, and companies can, capture this information and use it for marketing activities. So this will also be part of big data. And then the third one, individualization. So that is basically a customization that we already spoke about. That you can customize, you can send customized messages to your clients rather than a generic communication in traditional modes like ATL and BTL marketing modes, that is TV, radio, and newspaper, etc. Here you can customize your message. So that's what you mean by individualization. Independence of location, that's easy to understand. Irrespective of where you are, where the customer is, you can still reach them. And what is industry structure? What do you think that is? In internet marketing, industry structure. So the industry structure gets altered because of internet marketing. So that is where we would use intermediation and reintermediation. So disintermediation occurs because companies have access to internet. The agent is no longer required. Now you get the customers to connect to you via online modes directly. So the industry structure will get altered. And what is integration? So integration is all about your customer's ability to connect to you, even through via online promotions. Yes, someone has said click and buy, exactly. So you see an advertisement on another website, something like a news website, and then you click on that and then it gets directed to the company's website. And then you are able to make a sale, right? So integrate also, okay, the easiest way to understand is company advertises on Facebook. So in Facebook, below your advertisement, there is a button, that says buy or take me to the, store. So when you click that button, then, you go to that particular company's website and start your purchase. So that's what you mean by integration, connectivity. Right. Someone says, please, could you explain industry structure again? Yes. What happens is because of internet, the industry structure changes. So traditionally, you had the manufacturer and he sold to the customer through an agent. So now with internet, the agent is eliminated because the manufacturer has a website where the customer can buy directly from the manufacturer. So that is what disintermediation is all about. So internet marketing changes the industry structure, basically how the industry operates. So these are the 6 I's of internet marketing, which have become a possibility because of internet. Right, electronic branding. So you can advertise in such a way that you match an existing brand, or you modify an existing brand, create a new brand, and also form a partnership with an existing brand. Basically, it becomes easy for you with electronic modes. But what is a brand? What do you mean by a brand? There are so many brands out there, but what does it mean? So what is this brand? I know my drawing is not the best, but so what is the brand that you see on the screen? No, this is not Mercedes. It's the peace mark. See, if it is Mercedes, it has to be something like that. Right, so brand is a name, a symbol, it can be a term, a mark, or any design. Something by which customers identify your products and services. So companies spend a lot of money on branding. If you look at companies like Nike, Adidas, Puma, so they spend a big percentage of their revenue on building their brand. And once you get a loyal customer base to your brand, it is easy for you to sell. And brand would have a promise, brand promise, and you need to live up to that. So like I mentioned to you on the first day, Apple builds its brand on the hardware, the robustness, and also the design. Certain other companies would build their brand on technology. So they would pick a particular aspect. For example, Volvo on safety. So you need to build your brand on a particular aspect, and then customers would be attracted to those. Then it'll become easy for you to sell. So via electronic modes, you can constantly be in touch with your with the segment that you choose to serve, and it will help you to enhance branding activities. So that's the whole idea in e-branding. Right, CRM, customer relationship management. There are 4 stages. One is selection, that is identifying who your customer, whom you want to serve. Then you acquire, then you retain by giving them promotions, etc., and extension, bringing new customers through your existing customers. So IT can play an important role in improving all aspects of CRM, customer relationship management. So that is where you also have loyalty schemes. So for example, if you're flying on a particular airline continuously, they'll give you a card, right? And then every time you fly, you get to accumulate points, using which you can buy, future air tickets. You can do purchases, inside the aircraft, and various other benefits, merchant benefits that they give you along with, the air miles. So loyalty schemes are, part of CRM. Right, project management. So we will look at life cycle plan, project review, and project benefits and cost. Few things that we should know for SBL. But what is a project? How will you differentiate that from a normal business? What makes it different? Yeah, very good. So someone says has a start and finish date. Yes, project has project has a start and finish date. Unlike business will be like continuous, and within businesses you will have projects. So you have initiation, and then planning as to how you are going to do it. Then you implement, execution, and then you control with what you have planned. Control is between actual and planning, and then completion, the end of project. Right now, project plan start with a business case, which would typically include analysis, constraints, limitations, risk analysis, cost benefit analysis, and project appraisal. A business case can also be termed as a business proposal. Something like a document that has all information with regard to the project. For example, for a particular project, you will want a new funding. So when you go to an investor, how would you explain to him what you're going to do? So it is by using this document, that is known as business case or the business proposal, that you will, ask for funds. So the business case will include the details of the project, what materials are required, who is involved, right? And then analysis, the SWOT, constraints, risk. There's no limit to what you can include. You can include according to the requirements and the needs. You can even bring in 5 forces, and whatever aspects you think is important to win an investment. So cost benefit analysis, appraisal will also include financials like profit and loss forecast, cash flow forecast, NPV, IRR, payback calculations. So like I said, depending on the requirement, you will include details as much as you need. But a business case is important. Project risk management. So risk assessment should be done, identifying, analyzing risk, assessing the loss probability and magnitude for each item. And then also risk control, taking steps to reduce risk, provide contingency and monitor improvements. So risk is a generic topic that exists in business and projects. Therefore, how you manage risk, we can here as well use the TARA model, which I explained to you yesterday. But a quick visit, if the likelihood and the impact are low, then you accept the risk, because that's not going to give you a major damage. But if the chance of something happening and the damage is high, then you avoid. Stay away, basically, don't let it happen. And similarly, likelihood is low but the impact is high, you must transfer. Okay, it doesn't happen very often, but when it happens, the damage is high. So something like vehicle insurance, we transfer it to the insurance company, of course, for a premium. And then if the impact is low, damage is low, and the likelihood is high, we must try to put in place measures to reduce the damage. So this is what is known as the TARA model, which we will use in normal business practices plus in project management. Right, project benefits. There are many benefits. These are some of the ways in which we can look at it. Strategic benefits mean long term. It gives you a competitive advantage over your competition. Productivity gains, output, management benefits, operational, functional and support, intangible benefits, where you are able to build a brand name, and also emergent benefits, benefits that you did not envisage or forecasted, but then it's an accident basically, and accidentally you get some additional benefits. Right, also benefits can be put under 4 different headings: observable, measurable, quantifiable and financial. Observable benefits are benefits that you can observe, you can only see them. Something like employee happiness, they're happily working, there is no measurement. Financial benefits are benefits in numbers, financial, values, increased ROI, positive NPV, profits, reduced payback. Those are financial benefits. But I would like to ask you, what is this measurable and quantifiable benefits are? What is the difference between these two? Measurable benefits and quantifiable benefits. What is that? Measurable benefits and quantifiable benefits, what are those? Right, so quantifiable benefits, you can estimate the benefit before the project commences. Basically, you can forecast. A benefit that you can forecast before the project commences is known as quantifiable benefits. So the keyword is before, whereas a measurable benefit is a benefit that you can only measure after the project has been completed or implemented. So quantifiable is before, measurable is after. So different benefits can be put under different baskets. It's basically classification. That's what it's all about. So in managing and leading projects, you have key personnel, that is project sponsor, and the project manager who leads the project. Normally, like I said before, matrix structures are used in projects and should have regular gateways. Gateways are basically checkpoints. For example, if a project has 5 stages, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. At the end of the first stage, you will take the project plan and you will look at what project has achieved in the stage 1 and you will compare. Basically, it's a variance analysis exercise. Plan versus what actually materialized. So at stage 1, you look at what you planned and what you have achieved. If what you have achieved is according to the plan, then you will move to stage 2. If not, you will complete what needs to be done and then move. So that's what a gateway is. It's a checkpoint, so that we don't carry forward, pending work to the next stage, and then it gets accumulated, and later it has a big backlog, and then it's a headache for the whole project team. So gateways will ensure that each process or stage is completed before the project moves to the next stage. Also need appropriate performance measures at gateways to identify threats. So what are the trouble and bottlenecks, etc., so that you can eliminate them. Project control, you can fast track or you can crash. Fast track means bring in more people to speed up. Crash, you can reduce, and then provide extra resources if needed to reach the completion stage faster. Change scope or constraints. You were initially planning a bigger area, now you have reduced the size, so that's scope. You motivate staff so that they will, productivity improves. Abandonment is always an option, but it should be the final option. If you think losses would increase or project will become a failure in future, you rather abandon it. Right, project completion. Project reviews, there are 2 types. One is post project review and then post implementation review. Both would sound a bit similar, but what do you think the difference is? Post project review, post implementation review. Both are after, but what are we focusing here? What is the difference between the two? Post project and post implementation. Can I have some answers? Right, so post project review and post implementation review. Post implementation review looks on the product that is delivered. You will carry out a project to achieve an objective, a product, a building, a bridge, etc. So the post implementation, once you implement, right, so it focuses on the product delivered. Then the post project review, that looks at how did you conduct the project, right? The review is on the conduct of the project itself. So the post project is about how, and the post implementation is about the what. Both are important. What did you deliver and how did you deliver it? Because lessons have to be learned and taken to future projects so that the goods can be continued, improved, and the negatives should be eliminated. And whatever that you can't eliminate, then threats you reduce as much as you possible. So that's the whole idea between these two reviews, post project and post implementation, to take the learning into future projects. Right, financial decision making, funding and cost accounting. So in funding, we would look at equity, which can be internal or external. If it is internal, you have the retained cash, that money that you made, plus the working capital. External, you will use the existing shareholders, and then also new share issue to bring more money. You must know the advantages, disadvantages of different forms. And debt, we have long term, medium term, and short term. When it is long term, it's debentures and mortgages. Medium term, leasing, bank loans, and then short term, overdrafts and payables. So what you need to know is which kind of source of fund we use for which kind of activity. I mean, current assets, what do you fund with? For example, current asset has two parts, permanent part and fluctuating part. So what do we use? That again will depend on the style of management. If you have an aggressive mode, you have a different approach. If you have a conservative mode towards working capital, you have a different approach. And if you're moderate, then that's a different approach. So there's no hard and fast rule to say, okay, this is the approach. But generally, it depends on the management style and investor styles, etc. But when it comes to debt and equity, I mean, what is the percentage that a company should have? We know that debt is cheap and equity is expensive. So how much? What's the percentage? In your 100% capital, what is the percentage of debt and what is the percentage of equity that is ideal for a business? What do you think? Yes, normally what is considered good is 50-50. But if see, debt is cheap, but then excessive debt will increase risk. Therefore, the debt provider will want a higher return. So then the benefit of cheaper debt is lost. And equity excessive, I mean, if you have equity, it's expensive anyway. So then you balance it off by bringing in debt. So where both meets the lowest point is known as the WACC, weighted average. I mean, optimal WACC, optimal weighted average cost of capital. So it is at that point that you must carry out your investments. For SBL exam, you must know the advantages and disadvantages of both forms, and then you know where you use what. And okay, factors to consider before deciding which one to take. So cost of each forms of funding, level of gearing, control, collaterals, security, impact on your cash flow. I mean, if it is equity funding, cost may be high, but then you can decide whether to pay dividends or not. Whereas if you have debt in your balance sheet, then interest payments would become a burden. So you must have sufficient funds to support it. Also availability, and then exit routes. So these are factors that you would consider before choosing a particular option. Right, cost accounting. This is basically knowledge from your F2, F5, and then F9 subjects. Have an understanding of what is break-even analysis, decision-making options, that is relevant costing, make or buy, shutdown decisions, and then dealing with risk, maximax, maximin, and minimax model, expected values, probabilities, and then budgeting, different forms of budgeting such as incremental budgets, rolling budgets, zero-based, activity-based budgets, and then variance analysis. You will need a high-level knowledge as to what these are. Strict calculations is not that required much, but there can be one or two here and there to support your argument. So up to F9, it's you have already done it, so it's assumed knowledge, which you must be thorough with. So your decision making should be made based on the basis of maximizing contribution. Also, incremental decisions should be made on the principles of relevant costing techniques. Incremental revenue should be compared with incremental cost, and hence the incremental benefit. And then the new product should be assessed for their break-even point and margin of safety. So margin of safety is the difference between budgeted sales and the break-even sales. How safe are you after reaching your break-even point? And when it comes to budgetary control, it's more of behavioral aspects that you must also focus on. And variance analysis, remember, variance is not between budget and actual, because most of the time the budget activities are different to actual activities. Therefore, the budget activities need to be flexed, meaning brought to actual activity levels, and then you compare. For example, what did I spend versus what should I, what I should have spent, and then focus on the cause and effect of the variances. Why did this happen? If if you did something good, then the effect is good, then you continue. But if the cost is something negative, then you must try to avoid it in future. So that's the whole idea behind we find out what happened or carrying out variance analysis. And variance analysis is becoming less useful as standard cost becomes less standardized in modern manufacturing environments. A standard cost is the expected cost of manufacturing a unit. So in modern business environment, you have a pull model where customer requests for the product. So standardization is much less, more customization. That's the whole idea behind this statement. Right. So before moving on to managing strategic change, I would like to discuss this question, that is finance and business partners. I'll give you about 3 minutes if you could quickly run through. All right. So the A part, evaluate the franchising option being considered, highlighting the advantages and disadvantages of this approach from email's perspective. So 10 marks, 5 each. So evaluate means look at positives and negatives, or advantages and disadvantages. So if you can quickly tell me what the advantages are and the disadvantages. Oh, okay, first let's look at the advantages of franchising option. Yes, so quick expansion, that is one major benefit. Quick expansion. Then very less investment. The franchisee will invest on the land, building, facilities, etc. You just give your recipe and the brand name, and franchisee will invest on the location, etc. So quick expansion, and then less investment. So because of that, less strain on your cash flow. Another benefit would be you can access markets which you can't access directly. For example, if you're in country A and you want to go and invest in country B, there can be restrictions in country B for a foreign investor. So you can get someone in country B as a franchisee. So it's easy access to new territories. Also in this case, if you see the owner, they say he's not a people person. So then best way to expand is via franchising. And he can focus on the core, meaning the owners focus on the core activities while the operations are run by someone else via the franchisee model. Another advantage is branding and brand visibility. Now in this case they mentioned that brand visibility is less, so that problem will also be solved. Also, certain franchising agreements would say that the franchisees should buy all the materials from the franchisor, that is the holder of the franchise. So then that is a steady form of revenue for the franchisor. So that's another huge advantage. All right, disadvantages. It's difficult to manage in terms of consistent quality. For example, if you take a Mac burger in different countries, it would taste different. So maintaining consistency will be difficult. Also, sometimes franchises might customize a bit. Then you will lose the core. Yes, finding a partner is also difficult because franchisee has to invest. So not all franchises will be willing or able to invest. Also, in this case, G has no experience in selecting appropriate franchises. Franchisee model is altogether another model that is difficult to manage. So unless you have experience and expertise, it becomes very difficult. So in this case, G would find it difficult to manage them. Also, the returns in terms of royalty or revenue share would be less. So for example, if G goes on its own, form of expansion like organic growth or invest on their own and start a business, then the margins can be better. But if they go on the franchisee model, the franchisees would benefit. Yes, as the profits are shared, and it's not shared equally. That's the problem. Another problem would be that if a franchisee does, something bad in the market, then it will have a reputational damage on the entire brand. That is a huge risk when it comes to franchising model. Also, finding franchisees and drawing up agreements will take quite a lot of time, and that is also a costly element. So that again is another disadvantage. All right, moving on to the second part. Evaluate how other forms of strategic alliance might be appropriate approaches to strategy development at G. So what other forms of alliance that are available? If you can quickly name two. Yes, someone said joint venture, correct. So joint venture is one. Any other forms? You can also look at something called as a network arrangement. So in a joint venture, both parties would form a new company which is 50-50 owned. So this is normally done to enter a new geographical market, right, where one company would provide the expertise and the other the local knowledge and labor. And but this is not the case here, right, because the expansion is within the country, and also we don't have a candidate for a joint venture immediately. Also, even if you find a partner, it could take a bit of time to establish a contractual relationship. And this entrepreneur, he has his own way of doing things. So whether he will be fit enough to work with another party on a joint venture arrangement is also a question, right? So that's what you mean by evaluation, where you look at the pros and cons. Right, then a network arrangement. This is where two or more organization work in collaboration without a formal relationship. So they come together for mutual benefit. Now if you look at that equipment emporium, they have 57 superstores, and they sell tools and machines. And entrepreneur, he rejected the idea. But I think, see, you can argue that ideally this is a good setup, because in their store they would not be bothered about his products, or like what it can do. They would be want to sell a particular product in their showroom and earn a margin. And whereas our entrepreneur can focus on developing his product. So, and if he connects to them, he would immediately get access to 57 outlets. So that would be a good option. And this is what is known as an opportunistic alliance, because it's a quick way of you know achieving your expansion, because the entrepreneur also wants to expand quickly. And the key point is it draws on both of their expertise. Also, someone has suggested licensing. Yes, that is also an option. If you suggest two here and evaluate the pros and cons, that would be sufficient for 7 marks. Then there's a question: what is the difference between licensing and franchising? Right, right. That's a good question. What is the difference between licensing and franchising? How would you differentiate between licensing and franchising? Yes, in licensing, the owner will retain the intellectual property rights, and so franchising is inside licensing. And if you see McDonald's, that is one of the best known examples for franchising, right? And or if you look at Starbucks, they grow on their own, that is opening their own branches. Right, so licensing of it's about protecting the intellectual property right by the owner. Right, moving on to the third part. A consultant has suggested that G should be able to completely fund its proposed organic expansion at a cost of $500,000 through internally generated sources of finance. Evaluate this claim or his claim. Right, now, this is a good question. These are the kind of questions that you can expect in the exam as well. Whether there is sufficient funds. If there is no sufficient funds, then where do you bring it from? How much? At what cost? Right. So more of financial evaluation, etc. in those lines. So consultant has said that for organic expansions, the $500,000 can be internally found. That means you don't have to borrow from outside. And you are given position and income statements. So can you do a quick calculation? I will give you 2-3 minutes to see if we have 500,000 internally. So in your answer, if you say that you can generate, then you must show sufficient evidence. You must show the sources and the amounts. And if you say you can't, so you have to substantiate your claim. I mean, we can't just say they have enough or they don't have enough. Right, so looking at the financial statements, okay, we have cash and cash equivalents of 30. So we still need another 470. If you look at receivables, currently the practice is we are paying faster. And we are also receiving late. So for example, currently the receivable days is 260 divided by 1600 into 365. So 260 divided by 1600 into 365. That would give you a receivable days of 59. So meaning you are allowing them 59, almost 60 days to settle. But normally they agree to a 30-day payment term. So if you reduce the 59 days to 30 days, how fast would you collect money? How much of money would you collect fast? So you can actually recalculate it. So that is 30 by 365 into 1600. 30 by 365 into 1600. And that will give you an answer of 131,500. So there you have a difference of 260, that is 260,000 minus 131,500. So that means reducing it to 30 days would realize about 128,500. So this money you can use to invest. So I'll repeat it again, 30 by 365 into 1600 So that gives you 131,500. So your receivables of 260 will be reduced to 131,500, meaning now you have cash of 128,500, which you can use to invest. Also on the payables, that is trade and other payables, 75. So though you have more time to pay, the owner says let's pay early. If you have cash, you pay early. No, you stick to the general norm. You don't have to pay early, right? Similarly with receivables, don't give much time. You will get into cash flow issues, and also there's an interest cost, right? So looking at payables, so currently the payable days are 75 by 1375 cost of sales, 75 by 1375 into 365, so that is 20 days. That means we are paying back in only, in 20 days, but the common practice is 40 days. So what would happen if we also shift to 40 days? So again, 40 by 365 into 1375. So 40 by 365 into 1375. So that will push up the payables to 113, 113. So 113 minus 75, you get 38. So original payable days is 75 by 1375 into 365, which gives you 20 days, and you convert it to 40 days. So now you have 128,500 from your receivables and another 75,500 from your payables. So you get a total of 204. So 128,500 from receivables and 75,500 from the payables. So 75,500 is the difference between 40 days payables and the 20-day payable. If the payable is in 40 days, then your payable amount is 150,000. If the payable is in 20 days, then your amount is 75, which is already given. So 150 minus 75 is 75. So 75 plus 128,500. So that's about 204,000. So we have 30 cash and we have 204,000 from our payables and receivables. We can also look at factoring option, but then that is 260,000. Normally factoring would allow you about 80% advance. funds. So that's about 208. So the conclusion is that there isn't sufficient funds. So a claim such as this, you must financially evaluate and then substantiate. So here the conclusion would be there isn't sufficient funds. Someone asked, can we use overdraft? Yes, if the bank allows, but then we don't have information. And someone wants the calculations. Yes, I will share the answers at the end of the session, that is after Friday. Then you can go through the detailed calculation. All right, so let's call it a day. There are only few more slides which I would take you through tomorrow, and I would want you to go through September 2018 past paper and come because we have only limited time. And tomorrow I will discuss the exam techniques, how to approach the paper, how to do the reading, and then also we'll discuss with you certain questions from September 2018 SBL case study. So good night and thank you very much.